we don't metabolize fructose at all. Fructose is what makes things sweet. That's the advantage for us to eat apples, for example, and spread the seeds or the animals to eat it. It's sort of an enticement. But when we eat fructose, the glucose is the good sugar. That's the one that we use to feed our brain and all of our organs. Fructose has no value in the human body. When it goes to the pancreas, it's converted into triglycerides. They used to call it the Kopp's disease.
Yeah.
And because they eat too many donuts. So they always had a problem with triglycerides in their blood. And once the triglyceride level goes up, the triglycerides are converted into LDL, which is bad cholesterol. And that's like pumping sandpaper through your arteries. It causes severe inflammation and heart disease.
Now, you don't say fructose is not the same as fruit as eating fruit, or is it?
It's the same.
They don't like.
It's the fructose molecule. We don't metabolize fructose at all. Fructose is what makes things sweet. That's the advantage for us to eat apples, for example, and spread the seeds or the animals to eat it. It's sort of an enticement. But when we eat fructose, the glucose is the good sugar. That's the one that we use to feed our brain and all of our organs. Fructose has no value in the human body. When it goes to the pancreas, it's converted into triglycerides. They used to call it the Kopp's disease.
Yeah.
And because they eat too many donuts. So they always had a problem with triglycerides in their blood. And once the triglyceride level goes up, the triglycerides are converted into LDL, which is bad cholesterol. And that's like pumping sandpaper through your arteries. It causes severe inflammation and heart disease.
Well, basically, everything I understand about type 2 diabetes and most diseases, a lot of it's diet related. And of course, it's going to make us crave sugar, but by eating the wrong sugars is going to make us get into that situation. So it's like a double-edged sword here. You eat too much of the wrong foods, your body's not working the way it should, and then it craves the wrong foods.
That's right. It's your brain wants glucose. That's the good sugar. But it's not related to sugar. So when doctors say, well, you can't get diabetes by eating sugar, that's not really all that true. For example, if you eat table sugar is a glucose molecule attached to a fructose molecule by an oxygen linkage. So there's an oxygen that joins these two molecules. Now, when we do this, it goes to the pancreas. The pancreas splits the glucose off. And that's the good sugar that goes to feed our brains, to feed all of our other cells. The oxygen here becomes a free radical, becomes a hydroxyl free radical. The fructose cannot be processed. There's no way that the human body can use fructose as is. This little OH group now that's a free radical causes pancreatic damage. It'll eventually lead to pancreatic cancer, pancreatitis. But that is now a free radical that is just accumulates in your body. You never get rid of free radicals. No matter what it bumps into now becomes a free radical. So when we hit about age 40 in women and about 52 in men, for example, our glutathione production drops off. Our CRPs begin to increase, which is a very interesting cross point. That's Mother Nature taking us out. Mother Nature stops the production of glutathione that protected us and allowed us to do a lot of stupid things when we were younger, like eating a lot of pizza and staying up late, all the oxidative stress things. And now, nature cuts that off because we're no longer childbearing age. We're a burden on nature. So it stops producing the antioxidant glutathione. We get these inflammatory diseases. We get heart disease, and each individual is different as to how they present. It could be Parkinson's, it could be arthritis, it could be lupus, diabetes. It's just a random mix match as to how.
So what your suggestion is, even though all of these are as a chemical process, it all stems from a diet-related problem.
It's all diet-related. And Fred Bishi and I have had this discussion a lot. It truly is diet related. For example, a 12-year-old boy, he drinks 3 sodas a day. That's the same as giving, as far as liver damage, giving that boy 3 beers a day. does the same liver damage. Childhood obesity, fatty liver disease, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. It's showing up in children from 8 to 15, and it's all from fructose. That's what's causing it. So it's too many sugars, too many sodas. Gatorade's a classic example. When Florida developed Gatorade, it was a terrible tasting drink. Nobody wanted to drink it, but the football players,
yeah,
they had to drink it. So when Pepsi then bought Gatorade, they wanted to increase market share. So they added high fructose corn syrup to it. Athletes don't drink Gatorade anymore. And the reason is because of the fructose.
Mm-hmm.
But we have kids who would drink, 24 ounces of it in a single.
I don't know if you're familiar with it, but the first sports team, I think it was the Florida Gators or somebody in Miami, they were drinking it, and some of them started getting diseases, and and they, instead of taking it off the market, they just added glow-in-the-dark colors to it and marketed it even more.
Yeah, they sweetened up. They started putting fructose is a great sweetener, by the way. So to make it more palatable, because when they first started Gatorade, it tasted like you were drinking salt water. It was very high potassium, high sodium, high magnesium. It was developed there at the university to keep the electrolyte balance in place as these guys were out playing football, so they wouldn't get cramps and all that. So it was a great drink. We used to, when I played football, we used to be given salt tablets. It was the same deal. You can take a Tums and do the same thing. But then when Pepsi bought it, I think it was Pepsi or one of them bought Gatorade, they wanted to increase the market share and start selling it to kids. Well, you do that with sweet.
Sure. So we know you're talking a lot about fructose, and we know it's in a lot of processed sugar is just absolutely a killer. Now, the $1 million question my viewers are going to be interested in, and me being into the raw food diet and a vegan diet, where does fruit fall on the schedule on the scale here?
Fruit has a lot of organic compounds that we probably need. So don't worry so much about the fructose. You're not going to eat enough apples to even equal a teaspoon of fructose that you get by scooping it out and putting it in your tea. Okay, so volume makes up the difference. So an apple has a lot of fructose. That's what gives it its sweet flavor. But it also has all the minerals associated with it. It has the pectin. It has, you want to eat the whole apple because there's just as many nutrient items and antioxidants in the skin of the apple. And vegetables, let's take an olive, for example. These vegetables all create their own protective antioxidants. An olive is an ancient fruit. It goes back way before Moses. It was something that was always there. Well, the advantage is that pests can't eat an olive fruit off of the tree. And I was actually out in an olive orchard, Josh Early orchard in California. And they don't put fences up around their olive trees.
I've been to olive orchards. I've had olives, the charcoal tasting olive on the floor.
Oh, you bite into one of those, you're in trouble. I mean, it's an eye-opening experience.
Yeah.
So I asked the guy, I said, why don't you have fences up? People could just drive by and pick the olives. He said, well, go pick one. So I go up there and I pick one off of that tree, and he said, go ahead, bite into it. Man, I bit into it, and I thought my entire lip was going to unfold. My tongue was going to come out. I started salivating. I said, what is this? He said, it's called sodium cyanide. It is a pesticide that the olive plant actually produces to keep pests from eating the fruit of the olive tree. So what they do is they take the olive and they put it in sodium hydroxide and Drano, basically, and they leach out the cyanide in the form of sodium cyanide. So all plants, algae is one of those also. Fruits do the same thing. The red pectin on a red apple is a carotenoid. It is to protect the fruit of the apple from UV damage. That's what the skin of an apple does. It's what the yellow skin of a pear does. Anything with color is a carotenoid, and it's an antioxidant. Astaxanthin just turns out to be an extremely powerful one. Let me give you an example. Most people have heard of turmeric.
Turmeric, yes.
Yeah, yes. Turmeric or curcumin.
Yes.
It has an ORAC score, which is an oxygen radical absorption coefficient of about 127,000. It's a pretty strong antioxidant. Dark chocolate is 20,000, just to put it in perspective. Astaxanthin is 2.8 million.
Wow. Wow.
It's 20 times more powerful than turmeric.
Wow.
And that's why it works.
Wow. So you giving fruit thumbs up or thumbs down?
On which one?
On just in overall, I know if you compare it to table sugar, you're giving it a thumbs up on the brighter side. But they say an apple today is like, thanks to men today, is 100 times sweeter than it was, in the wild.
Yeah.
So in general, if somebody's eating a good diet with a good amount of vegetables in it,
you're okay.
If they're eating a good amount of fruits, are they okay, or is it something
they're fine? All of the fruits that we have today are really over fructose, genetically modified. 1,000 years ago, when apples were first there, they were crab apples. They were actually sort of sour or bitter to the taste. They had very little fructose in them. But the fruit we have today is extremely high levels of fructose because they want to sell more apples, and fructose is what gives it the sweet flavor. So when they approved high fructose corn syrup, that's the sweetener. And it's sold in rail car quantities, tankers, whole train loads of, but it was a way. This is where economics gets in, and
the political side of it is it's a lot of economical and political.
Oh, it's terrible because the poor corn farmer, he produces corn. He needs more revenue. Otherwise, he's going to be subsidized by U.S. taxpayer money to keep him growing corn as we need it. Well, in all the wisdom of our political side, they said, well, we don't want to pay taxpayer money to the corn industry. So Lyndon Johnson approved the use of fructose in our food system so that there was another product that could generate revenue for the corn grower. And that way they didn't have to subsidize with federal funding. So if it ever got to the point where fructose was taken out of the food supply, then our taxpayers are going to have to subsidize the corn industry.
Yep. Yeah.
They tried the same thing with ethanol.
Yeah. So from a fruit standpoint, I mean, is it common or possible to overeat fruit or not really?
You're going to get filled up pretty quickly. And
I mean, in the area, will it become a danger in what you're talking about? Not like the table sugar, but the fructose in fruit. Can it become an issue, or
it can, especially if you're doing large quantities of fructose. There's some juicing of fruits, for example, where you're getting very large quantities of fructose. That's not the natural way of eating by doing that. So you're decreasing the volume, but increasing the fructose concentration. That's sort of a no-no. You don't want to do that because you're trading off there.
Sure.
You want to keep the volume. You're always better off to eat the raw foods.
Yeah. Got it.
But you get filled up very quickly.
You get filled up before it becomes an issue, is what you're saying.
That's right. And your body will deal with it from a cholesterol point of view. You have to have some cholesterol because that's what causes your soap bubble cells to maintain rigidity. That's where cholesterol comes in.
As opposed to when you're getting the table sugar and all this stuff, you're concentrating to such a degree where it's doing so much damage in the smallest form.
When we begin to process sugar into a white crystalline, and the concentration was the game changer. Now we had a concentrated poison, basically, is what it is. One of the members, I was at a conference and he was asked, why are you allowing fructose to even be in our food supply? You know it's a poison. And his comment was, well, the FDA only regulates acute poisons, not chronic poisons.
There you go.
And you can't, with the time lag and the epidemiology work, you can't prove that my cancer is a direct result of me eating sugar 25 years ago. That's a problem.
So 2 more topics, then I want to talk about this because this
Okay.
is important. So you talked about honey as a sweetener. You talked about table sugar. There are a lot of alternative sweeteners out there today. There's stevia, and then there's agave nectar and all these others. Like agave nectar to me is almost just like corn syrup, just a healthy marketing. The marketers have done a great job on people, but it's just as bad in my opinion.
It's agave sugar is probably worse than table sugar. Its fructose level approaches 60% of fructose and 40% glucose. It's not a good one. Stevia is fine. Stevia is a nice left-handed molecule that your body doesn't want to assimilate as a sugar, but it still has a sweetener characteristic to it.
I actually have a green stevia, which is the non-concentrated one. It's really great because it has the medicinal properties in it. It's wonderful. So what about like maple syrup or something like that?
Same problem. Yeah, if you look at the fructose to glucose ratio, anytime that a fructose to glucose ratio is greater than 1, you probably shouldn't do it.
Anytime you're concentrating it, in other words, you're creating a problem.
You're creating a problem. Pears, there's a list on the internet. I actually have a list here to show which ones it is. It's always the ones that we like. So you have pears, you have pineapples, you have apples, oranges, all of, it's just the way God made it, I guess, that all the things we like are really bad for us.
But you're not saying apples and oranges are bad for us, right?
No, I'm not. But they have ratios of greater than 1 on the fructose to glucose.
But we do know a lot of that is man's hybridization of it too, right?
It is. The fruits we eat today aren't even close.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why seedless watermelons have so much more sugar than the one seasoned.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's sugar water. Watermelon.
Hybrids, yeah. Without a doubt, if somebody has cancer, you need to give them this product. Now there's many different types or many different companies. You can go to Walmart and get this, but it's not the same. And in the interview I did with him last night, he explains why it's not the same, but also there's a link below this video, which is the interview he did with Dr. Fred Bishey. It's a really great way to sum it up. Now, I interviewed him for over 2 hours. This is like a 20-minute interview, and he explains what this is and why this company, Valasta, which is his company, is the real deal and why this is different than those. And trust me, I spoke to him for 2 hours last night, and I'm telling you, this is the real deal. This is what I'm recommending, and this is what I want people to get. If you have any questions, let me know. I didn't get a chance to do my Q&A last night because I was talking to this guy for almost 2 hours about this product. And the testimonials in itself are just through the roof of people that have been taking this and getting better. I mean, I'm excited about the cancer and what's being said and done about cancer in general, but there's just so many other things that people are getting better from.